Talk Radio with Michael, Neil, Phil, and the gang.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio. This is the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Neil Modi, and with me are the autumnal members of the Song Talk Radio action team. We have Fall Time Phil.
Hello, Neil. The song said, "Don't stop believing," and I said, "Don't tell me what to do. Just stop believing."
That's good. You got to maintain your freedom.
Independent.
Yeah,
Don't tell me what to do.
and filling in for Mike Proudfoot tonight, we have Leaves Lexi from
Hey guys,
the
thanks for having me back.
From indie pop band Featurette. How you doing, Lexi? Good to have you.
Good. It's my fourth time around with you guys. So
Yes.
for all
Wow.
4 seasons, I'm here for fall. Here we go.
Wow. Try to take over. All right. Please send your comments and questions to @SongTalkRadio on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or feedback @songtalk.ca if you prefer the email, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. And please visit us at songtalk.ca to find out how you can be a guest. We have a great guest tonight, but before we get to her, we got a couple of housekeeping items. First thing is our Song Talk meetup was this past weekend. We had a great turnout. People from all over the world joined us. Well, mostly from the U.S. and of course Canada. And it was great. We had some really good, interesting philosophical discussions. One member who was not a experienced songwriter came on. He said, "All I've got is a piece of prose, not even a lyric." And then I had him recite the lyric, and it was amazing how much rhythm and how much kind of melody. And even though he wasn't a songwriter or a singer, he actually started sort of singing it, and it was like kind of cool. And it was amazing the response that he got is like, "You got a really good thing going here," and he just didn't have the belief that he was a songwriter. And I'm like, no, if you love what you're doing and you put together something that's something like a song, you are a songwriter. Just go
Love
for
is
it.
all you need.
Exactly. Just go for it and do it. And that's the amazing thing about the meetup, is that we like to build people up and encourage them no matter what level they're at.
Because everyone starts off with their first song, which often is very basic and very, it's not too complicated because you don't know that much, but that's how you start. It's not, people aren't born being songwriters who can write these amazing songs right off the bat. No. It takes work and learning and trial and error, a lot of trial and error.
Lots of error.
The Olympics this year taught us that you don't need to start amazing, but you need to start to be amazing.
Oh, there's a good one.
Very true. I remember that commercial. And Phil, you got some news from the Beatles world.
Yes, this is really cool. A rare cassette recording of John Lennon and Yoko Ono has been auctioned off in the Danish capital, Copenhagen. It was, I guess earlier on today. A 33-minute audio track was made by 4 Danish teenagers more than 50 years ago, and just months before the Beatles announced their breakup. Features an interview with the couple and what is believed to be a never-released song.
Wow.
And surprisingly enough, it went for just $60,000, which I was.
And do we know who the buyer was? Was it someone private or?
I am not sure at this point. I just heard that.
I wonder if we're going to get to hear that audio recording, if it is something new, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, because it wouldn't be in the public domain.
No, but if someone, I don't know, if John
They might release it.
Well, Yoko Ono's still around. She could potentially say, "Hey, let's share it with the world."
That's an interesting question, because I would imagine, the copyright would be an interesting, situation with that, because
it would be up to John Lennon's estate, which I assume Yoko Ono's part of.
Yeah, that's interesting.
One could only hope.
Yeah.
They were interviewed by someone else, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. It was an interview. Okay, who knows?
Yeah.
It'd be like all those Prince songs that are locked in a vault somewhere and we'll never hear them.
Oh, so sad. What a loss.
Yeah, that's true.
Very true. Okay. So that's all for the news tonight. Tonight, we are welcoming the return of vocal looping jazz pop singer-songwriter Jordana Talsky. And here's a taste of her new song, Superpower.
I feel your eyes on me. Feel them running. Feel them run across my skin. It's like I hear you breathe. And you're working your way to me. I smile and I entice. Make you wonder what it would be like. And if I stoke this fire, will I survive or turn to ice? I need a super powerful love. Give me a super power to love.
Jordana Talsky is a singer-songwriter and vocal looper who fuses multi-genre influences into her own sound. She accompanies herself by voice with a Roland Boss RC505 loop station. Her ethos is to incorporate digital means into live performance in an organic way, and with the loop machine, she creates a choir on the spot with no pre-recorded parts. Jordana weaves unique interpretations of covers with original material. Her vocal loop song Run was a judge's pick for finalist in the 2018 CBC Searchlight contest. Other accolades include finalist placements in the John Lennon Songwriting Competition, Sarah Vaughan International Vocal Competition, Julian Award for Emerging Canadian Artists, and Toronto Independent Music Awards. She has toured across Canada, Europe, and in 2019 was featured as an emerging artist at Summerfest, the world's largest music festival in Milwaukee, as part of her first US tour. Welcome back to Song Talk Radio, Jordana.
Hey Neil, thanks so much for having me.
That's awesome to have you back. Your first appearance on the show was January 2019. Yep. So it's been that was in the before times.
Before
right?
times.
Before time.
Right.
It was actually it was. I remember because when I read your bio about the CBC Searchlight, I think that's how we found you, because that year I was listening to a lot of CBC Searchlight tracks and I hit yours and I was like, oh, we got to invite her on the show because this is really, really cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, that was the first loop song. There on my last album there were 3 loop songs, and that one, got great traction, and that's kind of what led me to do a full vocal looping record.
Really awesome direction. Great choice.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So how does one write a looping song? Is it done, do you start off with sort of experiments and just kind of improvising and building on that, or?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I've actually found that, every loop artist has a different sound, and I think also a different approach to looping. So for me, I started off my musical life in choir, and I've realized that that has really impacted the way I write. I write from an arrangement-minded base. Like I often will lay down the harmonies, the rhythm section of the harmony before I even know what the melody line is. And I find that that is applicable for pretty much all the loop songs. Yeah. Even the ones that are covers, when I'm dissecting them to figure out the arrangement. So
you can totally hear that. I absolutely hear that for sure. I actually wanted to ask you, are you a music theater kid?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I knew it.
I wasn't like full on. I actually did I was in a children's choir that did a lot of I was in Canadian Opera Company productions, and then when I was in university, I did Gilbert and Sullivan. So kind of like
you can hear it for sure. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Because I hear no, it's a good thing. I say that with all the love in the world. I come from that background and opera background as well. So nice. I really appreciate it. Just like you can hear like the cleanliness, you know what I mean? Like you're not trying to be like really of the times with how your diction and stuff works. So I just
well, you know what?
Curious about that.
I'm so glad that you raised that, but I will also say that, in the last couple albums, I think I struggled with that because I can't really help the way I sound. And it also, it is a cleaner sound than the more dirty, grubby of what you would consider, I don't know, alternative or indie alternative, where I was trying to like wedge myself in, and it just doesn't work. So then I just took myself right out of that and just like, oh, I'm just going to do something completely different and unique.
Love it.
I think because in part because yes, well, there, I said my point.
I think
the way you're describing your process is really surprising to me, because listening, especially to your new track, I was like, yes, the beats are really cool, and the fact that you do it all with vocals and body hits and things is really, really neat. But I could swear you started with melodies, because the melodies are so strong and catchy that I figured that must be your starting point, and then build the harmonies underneath that. But you say you always work in the opposite direction.
Yeah, and some of these are co-writes, so I think we'll get into it. I did want to, yeah, I was going to chat about that. So
how do you co-write with a looping pedal?
Right.
Well, obviously you have to credit the looping.
You have to credit the looping pedal.
I
mean, come on.
Okay.
The process that mine was unique. So basically, I worked with Justin Avedon on the last record. He produced this record, and he was the one encouraging me to explore vocal looping. So when I decided, okay, fine, like I had culled a bunch of random ideas. Some of them were semi-finished songs, some of them were finished songs, some of them were just one-line ideas, and then got together with him and his writing partner, Sarah McCulley, and the three of us worked on pre-production, wherein we either polished some of the songs or in some cases stripped them down. Like that song that you played, I guess we're going to talk about Superpower.
Yes.
That was a song that was completely different. The only thing that remained was that skeletal D and G repeating line, like that was all that remained. Everything else was different about that song. And maybe parts of the melody were similar, but the process of writing this record. So yeah, basically, sorry, I'm being roundabout, that I had these different loop parts, and then in some cases they stayed and were reformatted, and in other cases just kind of only used as the very foundation of what would become a new song.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're collaborating with them, are you using the loop pedal as well as like the bass chord thing, and then you guys are talking about lyrics and melodies and things on top of that? Or are you literally sitting down with like a piano or a guitar and doing it like a singer-songwriter, like a traditional singer-songwriter?
Okay, so when I brought stuff in, the loops had been done. I'm trying to answer this. We had the loop, we did it in my home here, and I'm looking over the loop machine. And so in some cases, usually the loops, the foundational loops stayed. Okay. There was a lot of lyrical rewrites, and in some cases format changes where like no, let's go to the chorus here. So maybe I need to revise what I said earlier, with the exception of this one song where we stripped down a lot. That for the most part, I brought them semi-finished ideas, and it was a question of puzzling things around, reformatting the format and the lyrical content. I think that's the best way to say what we did. But yeah, the loops also are part of the arranging. So Justin and I made certain tweaks to different harmonies that were added to the loop machine. Certainly sounds, like when we got into the studio, we had a semi idea of what we were going to do, and I came in with these ridiculous legends because I'm not a very good I can't really notate theory that well. I had all these weird maps and things of how I wanted to do things, and then we would experiment a little with sounds and that sort of thing, and come up with parts on the spot. But having the basis of it, kind of work through it.
That's the magic of the studio, though. You got to have those magical things that pop out. I always find it fascinating when you write an entire song, because you write how many songs does a songwriter write in their life that never see the light of day, like most of them, right? And you write an entire song, and it's just for that one part. It's just for that like one little melody line, or like two chords, like you said it, or that one aspect of a loop, and then like it gets stuck in your head, and then it leaves, and 6 months later it shows up, and you're like, oh, and it turns into another song, and it's like that's what that was for. I always think that that's the coolest thing. That sounds like that could have been part of your journey.
Definitely. Yes, absolutely. And actually, I think I brought that song in its original form to Justin, and that was the thing that really hooked him, was that like did it with the parts. He was like, that could be a song. Yeah.
So there's different ways of, like when a band goes in the studio, they can, do live off the floor, everyone plays at once, you record that, and then there's other ways of where each person does, their own track, and then, you overdub it. So with a looping machine, is this actually like sort of one live performance?
It's a great question. So the answer is in order to get the best quality of recording for the record, we did record individual parts, and we would usually do 2 sessions per song, one where we would lay down all of the background parts and then I'd come in and do the lead. On this record, there was an exception where for one of the songs we pulled, I had like a looper breakdown in one of the demos that we then transplanted into the final version. But it's a great question because the truth is we recorded the parts separately from what was in the demo, but just to get a better recording quality than going through looper. And then, as I said earlier, some things change in the studio and some parts you come up with in the studio. So then when you leave the studio with the recording, you actually have a slightly different version than the original. And what I've been doing now is relearning those songs to perform them live.
Right. Yeah, because when you look at it, like the looping pedals are really cool, but they are they're live performance thing. There's very little reason that I can see to use them in a studio recording, because overdubbing.
Unless you're trying to make magic, right? Unless you're just trying to go for that vibe.
Unless you got a really,
get the vibe.
Yeah, a really interesting live vibe that is part of the magic. Yes.
Yeah, that even isn't the thing that you record, but it's the thing that inspires the thing that you record, or something like that. I actually work with
as a tool to build upon. Yeah, but then when you get to the final recording, you'll still record track by track.
Yeah. I work with the Digitech vocal harmony pedal. Do you know that one by chance?
Not that one, but
I have that one on stage. It does looping as well as having effects. So people are always like, "What's that for?" It's like it makes your voice like a guitar, right? Like you can change your effects on the fly as well. Because I have an electronic prop project, so I like to change the sounds as I go.
Oh, but I'll have to question you later.
We should nerd out. We should nerd out at some point. Yeah.
Totally. Okay, great. But yes, also the thing about this Boss RC505 loop machine is that the sound degrades as you add layers to a track. And so that's one reason why, if you want to have more clean sounding, I wish they would come out with a more professional grade loop machine that could be used in all these kinds of settings for live and in studio, just better, a little better recording quality.
Well, in theory though, that would make a really interesting side project if you wanted to, for YouTube or something like that, record a live off the floor version in studio, not on stage, because you could do it and challenge yourself to see what your best take would be and just let it be what it is.
Yes, I've just done that actually. The Richmond
amazing.
I just recorded in a studio in a theater, so it's a little different. Oh, wow. Studio.
Cool.
And every space presents different sonic challenges. But I just did listen to the rough mixes, so that's coming.
Cool. I love that. That's great.
I think I did remember reading somewhere, was your Spotify profile or something like that everything that we hear on this album is vocal or body tap of some kind. So nothing was like it wasn't like, even if it started there, was anything like manipulated digitally to a different pitch or a different, because like this song, for example, the superpower, like I'm hearing a kick drum and I don't know what, you tapping your foot or
that was close to like, there was a,
okay.
And then you add some effects to it. And then there was also a tap shoe. I used some, my secret desire to tap came out.
See, the music theater is really bleeding through here. I don't know if your story is holding up.
In very subtle ways.
So for this song, you had to go for the whole song.
That's right.
No.
When you loop it,
when you loop it, you don't have to. But for this,
in the studio recording, you recorded the loop, and then
we did a long segment of.
Okay.
Eventually, we looped that, but we did
8 bars or 16 bars or whatever it was. Yeah. Okay.
Because that would make you go cuckoo after a while.
Well, I mean, you want to get an organic feel, so you don't want it to be so choppy. But yes, you're right.
Because if I'm not mistaken, it's the chord progression doesn't change the whole song, right?
Correct.
It's still the D and G back and forth, even though the layers change and whatnot. Is that a limitation of the loop pedal, that once you establish one loop, you kind of have to work with that, like in a harmonic sense, you have to work with that throughout the whole piece?
Yeah. So yes, I mean there are ways to get to sort of like, I try to maximize the, well, what I learned from this project is that you can maximize with just a few chords. You can write a good song with just a few chords. This taught me that you can. There are ways to create more chord progressions, and I've devised a way where I like to do it. Basically, I do it. Certain tracks of the loop machine are allocated to certain forms. So like this is going to be verse, and then this is the chorus, and then that, and this is a bridge. And I know how I can move around and maneuver to get progressions. But I often do have to reharmonize and maybe cut some chords and make a creative way where it still sounds like what I want it to sound like, but with less chord progression.
Okay. It sounds like the device is not designed to do that, but you've kind of hacked your way through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
classic being a musician in modern times, right? Like classic.
Well,
and like I said, every looper I've watched or heard has a different way of approaching it.
Of course, yeah.
Well, let's take a listen to it, and then we'll talk some more.
Cool.
I feel your eyes on me. Feel them running. Feel them run across my skin. It's like I hear you breathe. And you're working your way to me. I smile and I entice. Make you wonder what it would be like. And if I stoke this fire, will I survive or turn to ice? I need a super powerful love. Give me a super power to love. I am your queen of swords. I've been clever as a fox, untouchable at first. Now I'm playing on your checkerboard. The scent of hunger's curse. It was easy, and I'm on the hunt now. Could be a great reward, or maybe after I'll feel worse. I need a super powerful love. Give me a super powerful love. I want a super powerful love. Give me a super power to love. Oh, oh. I feel I'm in control. Gonna crack it. Gonna crack your code. It's almost all mapped out in a language all my own. But signals scramble up. Another riddle for my part. I'm in the wild unknown. The charm, the chase, it's not enough. I need a super powerful love. Give me a super powerful love. I want a super powerful love. for love. Give me a superpower. A superpower for love. Superpower to love.
Wow.
Awesome tune. Awesome.
That was Superpower by Jordana Talsky. Amazing. There's a few
my
things.
favorite part is I have a
What's your favorite part, Lexi?
My favorite part is in the main like the whole motif that carries the whole way through. When you get that just on its own, the formants that you can hear over top of those notes, and I don't know if it's just because it was like loud in my speakers or anything, but like you get like a whole rich chord despite it being like 2 or 3 notes at any given point. Like it's just so beautifully tuned. Your voice works lovely, lovelyly. I love having. I'm so bored of the airy, raspy thing that's happening. It's so refreshing to hear somebody like singing with their voice. Like it's like really beautiful.
Articulate.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. There's a lot of stuff to talk about here, but there's a couple of things that really stood out for me. The way power becomes one syllable. Really cool.
I wanted to. Hey, Neil. Part of the reason I chose this song is because I remember the first time I was on the show. And we discussed a song of mine called Bittersweet Heart, and you were interested with how I played with the word and the spelling and the syntax of that word, and I've done the same thing with
you're baiting me every time.
So I thought you'd notice that. I knew you'd notice that. Yeah. There you
go. And the other thing I noticed, I mean, lyrically, we haven't talked about lyrics at all yet, but lyrically it's kind of interesting because it starts out kind of as it progresses each verse, you seem to get more power in each verse, but the end of the last verse, the charm, the chase, it's still not enough, no matter how much power you perceive you've gotten. That's the impression I'm getting.
Interesting take. Well, shall I speak about the content for a sec? Okay.
Sure, please.
So, well, the story is about someone who uncovers wants and needs within herself, but let's call it she, whatever person, starts out one way and ends up feeling another. So I've said that it's about the truth of confronting, a relationship of depth in intimate relationships, but it's told from the perspective of a person who is both the player and the pawn. And so by the end, the charm, the chase, it's not enough. I thought this was going to work for me, but I actually want a super powerful love.
That's deep.
That's
it's good. It's got some depth to it. I mean, in a lot of ways, it is a simple song because the melodies, as catchy as they are pretty simple. The chord progression is very simple, but harmonically, like Lexi was saying, harmonically, it's really rich sounding.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of depth in the lyrics, so it's a great combination.
There's imagery in the lyrics that I thought I wanted to. I did want to showcase it because I like the imagery. Yeah, Lexi, you're saying the astrology
tarot reference. Yeah,
that's right.
Tell me about the tarot reference. Crack that one open for me.
I've become more interested in it as of late. I suppose as of late since writing the record, or as I was writing the record, and I was looking for sort of an esoteric reference that could characterize this character.
What came first, the lyric or the interest? We're talking, of course, about the line Queen of Swords here. So we're
okay.
Yeah.
The song, I think, came first, and then well, maybe it was in tandem, sort of just becoming more interested in astrology and friends of mine, people in my life who are, and reading a little bit more about it, and thought it was a suitable reference.
Maybe your next album is going to be steeped in it.
Perhaps. Could be. I just saw a band called Queen of Swords, and I thought that was a really cool name. All female band.
Phil, what did you think of Superpower?
It's really neat. It's got a long intro, which is sort of interesting, but the intro is not dull. There's like a lot of movement and a lot of buildup of the hooks, right from the beginnings, which is so important these days. The way people listen to music, they hit the beginning, and if it doesn't grab them right off the
Don't bore us, get
bat,
us to
then
the
it's good.
chorus.
But there was like it really did catch you. There's lots of interest, even though it's kind of a long intro, which I really liked. I loved how you had a different rhythm of the vocal. Sort of the first line is kind of very straight, and then there's like a hesitation, and then there's sort of like this new, faster kind of almost conversational rhythm, which I thought was really neat. It's a little bit musical theater, but I really love that. I thought it was really made it really interesting. It reminded me a bit of sometimes like Joni Mitchell would sort of do that, would sort of do these kind of conversational lines, which I thought kind of really added some wonderful energy to it. I love the fact that on the lyric sheet, there's a little thing that says solo, which for an a cappella song is so interesting. I've been going,
Yeah.
solo.
I didn't even realize
Okay.
that. You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that was the tap shoe.
Yeah.
The tap shoe had a
Tap shoe.
solo.
Yeah, the tap shoe and the
That's
scatting.
so sweet.
Right?
and I love the structure. You have a short chorus at the first one, but the second one is is longer, and it's a wonderfully constructed song, and just chock full of hooks.
Thank you.
And
I want to give credit to where it's due for that decision of the shorter first chorus. That I'm going to give that one to Justin and Sarah, who co-wrote the song. Justin Abbott and Sarah McCulley, and that was their suggestion. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I have a question. In the chorus, I think it's just so interesting. The first time I was listening to it, I was doing other things. I like to have the music hit me and not sit there and judge it. You know what I mean? So the thing that drew me in, hi, my name's Lexi. I'm dyslexic. Life has been hard up until this point. Superpower for love, superpower full love. I literally was doing something else and being like, oh, no, I heard it the wrong way. Oh, no, I heard it the right way. Oh, what the hell? And I got so confused. And I just wanted to know, because in a modern pop song, that wouldn't be a choice you could make without people being like, that's too like highbrow, like way too like too intelligent, like they'd cut you off there. But I think that choice was very wise given the simplicity of the track. I think there was room for a choice like that, and it drew me and it made me listen to it. So I just was wondering, was there thought process behind that, or did it just like happen and you didn't think about it twice?
Thanks for saying that. What was their thought? We probably.
Although I recognize it's probably really hard to remember because we write these things, they go away, and then you're like, "What the hell was it? I don't know what's here."
Right. No, I do remember that we had discussion about the chorus because every line it sounds like it's the same, but then it's slightly different. That's what the earlier reference to the Bittersweet Heart. So it's what is it again? I want a super powerful love. Give me a super power for
love. Yeah.
I want a super powerful love. Give me a superpower to love. Anyway, so there's the answer is we had discussions around that and decided to go with it because I sometimes, maybe because I studied English literature, I sometimes like to be smart.
I was going to ask if there's a phonetic background there, what the thing was. Absolutely.
Was it just let's throw this weird twist in here and be clever, or was there actually like a deeper meaning behind that?
Well,
both. Yeah, can't it be both?
I'm reading a deeper meaning into it, but
honestly, both. I wanted all of those meanings, and I liked that there was a cleverness to it. And that's kind of ties in with the clever as a fox, character's clever.
And that's always the interesting thing here on the podcast, and even in the meetup and stuff, when we're analyzing songs, we have the lyrics in front of us. Had we not had lyrics in front of us, like Lexi was saying, you just kind of let the song, flow over you. You may not pick up on that, or you may be like, did I hear it right? Or anything like that, right? So when we have the lyrics in front of us, it's a very different experience.
And the other half of that is like when in modern songwriting or singing of any kind, like when do you even get to hear the lyrics properly anymore? When is there diction? Because there is not anymore. And that's like very on vogue and very of the times. And like, this is a choice. It's a choice to go in another lane. I think for you, it's a really great choice. And I'm really happy for you that you made that choice. But it's like, it's powerful. It's like you're deciding to like stand alone with this because now you're like naked. You're like, okay, well, here's my voice and these are the words. And you don't have to look them up because you can actually hear them, which I think is really novel given the times that we're in. So yeah, it's really interesting.
I wanted to make a point, something I realized that, one of the advantages about, being involved in music and being a little bit older is you sort of seen what decisions that were made, many years ago and how they sort of work out over time. And something I realized is that there's certain music that during the time is really hip and it's great, but then you listen to it like 10 years later and it's almost a cliche and it kind of loses some of the energy. And I think, with we certainly all have our musicians and our styles that we love. And if you're doing something that's very of this time, that's great, but it may not age that well. There's lots of stuff that sounded really cool in the 80s that does not stand the test of time. Now, it doesn't mean that wasn't a great tune when it was put out, but because it was so much of the time, because it was so wrapped up in the time, and people were chasing that style so much, it kind of deadens it. And I think it's an important thing to pay attention to what's happening now, but keep in mind that when your stuff comes out, it may be 2 or 3 years later, which means that what's happening now may be already old fashioned. But you also want to make sure that yourself comes through, so that it may be referenced to what's happening today, but is definitely, will sound like you in 10 years, because, after a while, a gated snare just sounds like a gated snare, and it's just.
I'm going to call that cynical Phil, but I love it.
No,
but I think you hit it on the head when you said chase. You can't chase the genre. You can't chase your style. You must create your style. You have to love what you do and be in your own lane regardless. And that can be of the times. You can thrive in the times, absolutely, but write something about what you're interested in. Don't just write music for the sake of music, because tell a story. Like, why else are we here? What's the point of just making noise for noise,
And also everything old is new again. I mean, look at The Weeknd. He's full on doing the 80s. Like, there's nothing.
The 80s are very popular
everything,
right now.
everything I do comes out like the 80s, so I can't help it.
Yeah, but
disco is back. It is back with a vengeance.
But it's not, it's referenced the 80s, but when you hear, I went through this, remember when iTunes first came out, and I thought, oh, it'd be great listening to all those stuff I used to listen on CFNY, which was, Toronto's alternate radio station, played a lot of local bands.
Yes.
And there was lots of stuff that hearing the 30-second preview was enough, because you're going, it doesn't sound as good as it did back then. So
yeah, there was some of that for sure.
So stuff is definitely referencing the 80s, but it's modernized. So so
yeah, you're using newer synthesizers.
Yeah. So Jordana, like I played around with, I used to do looping stuff with 2 tape recorders, but that's a very different way of doing, looping stuff that like Robert Fripp did, and it's good for doing soundscapey things.
Analog.
But so I was, I bought a little looper pedal and I was trying to work with it. And it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. How would you advise people getting started? They listen to your stuff, go, this is awesome. I want to try doing this. What would your advice be to them?
I think Neil asked me the same question years ago. What would I advise? Well, like I said earlier, everyone's got different methods of doing it. I culled through lots of different YouTube videos, but really it was about just getting the grit, getting into the dirt with the machinery. I do. Maybe I'll just say I have a Patreon account, and one of the tiers is designed for people who want to learn looping. And awesome. The idea, I was going to sort of walk them through my process. So people, that's one option if you'd like to check that out. And aside from that, I think using a piece of hardware is somewhat limiting, because then you become skilled at using just that one piece of hardware. So I actually, when people have asked me this question, have suggested maybe you start with software, even though it's not, I don't like that it's not as tactile. I actually have done a little with Ableton and this and that, but I prefer to have the hardware. Having said that, I think you're then stuck with the thing that you did, unless you want to learn a whole new other thing. Yeah. So perhaps checking out some software like Ableton that has a sampler, a simpler function. It's very different though, because I find you don't have as much of that organic feel,
and expensive.
Yeah, that too. You can have trouble.
Because that's what I was actually wondering, like when, it's not a question of if, but the day that your Boss looping machine dies and they don't make that one anymore, what do you go on eBay and look for the same model again?
I know. I think that, yeah, or they're coming out with new models. It's a very good question that I don't have a good answer to right now, but I think
figure it out.
but I also, there's a lot of people much more well skilled than I, and because of the info age, you can kind of look them up and see what they're doing. But just like rent it from Long McQuaid, find something to rent.
That's good advice.
Just mess around with it.
Yeah, that's good advice. We tried
and get really frustrated, like I did. And scream and yell, like I still do.
That's like entrepreneurial musicianship spirit, though, right? It's like very up and down at the beginning. It's like, I can do this every time in the world. I hate everything about this. I will succeed. I will win. It's very, yes.
Yeah,
it's very interesting
still
climb.
Like that.
It will always be like that.
I know, that's the thing. I'm like, when are you ever getting to the finish line? No, and that's a good life lesson. No, you're never getting to the finish line.
Lady Gaga had that documentary the 1 5'2" or whatever that one is called. And remember, I'm dyslexic. Names are very hard for me. And she reaches the pinnacle of her career, she says, when she's playing the Super Bowl. And she goes, but this is so sad because I know that it's here. Like, there's nowhere else for me to go. Like, I did it. Like, this is it. Like, that's so sad. So what's really beautiful is for you and me, maybe we'll never know when that moment is, which is really glorious, because then you can spend your whole life living in that moment, suspended, or forever falling on the floor, whatever your frame of mind is. It's up to you.
So how do people get to this course that you're offering, Jordana?
Go to my Patreon page. It's patreon.com. I suppose it's /Jordana Talsky. But if you're going to link to any of my socials, I will. Maybe I can put it in the.
We'll definitely put it onto the show notes.
Yeah, send us the link. We'll definitely put
and
that in
what is it, like a series of lessons, or is it a one session? What is it?
It's a series. Well, basically, it's optional of like one-on-one, depending on what you subscribe to. A series. Yeah, there's like quarterly reviews, and you can choose to do more intensive, but
you pay me enough, I'll do whatever you want, right?
I mean, I feel it's a really roundabout way of doing things, but I figure I've learned a few things that can bypass the hardship of having to sit and toil. And so really I don't know if it's going to be the right way for someone else to learn. It's my own weird way of interpreting information, but I figure I'll share it, and maybe it'll help some people. I think it'll help some people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you figured out a good way to do it, and like you say, like a lot of the time with the technology that's new, like if I try to pedal, I wouldn't know where to start. It's just a matter of showing those things. But I don't know, the relationship with musicians and technology is interesting because, the more I toil away with it, I always find that I'm the limiting factor. The technology is never the limiting factor.
That's true.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I'd be glad to, field more questions about that if people want to direct message me about what that is. Sure.
Yeah, definitely. We'll share that link on the show notes.
Cool.
Yeah, because I think it would definitely help people get started, because looping is surprisingly fidgety, especially when you're trying to do a pop song,
Alrighty, that is about all the time we have on Song Talk Radio tonight. Special thanks to Jordana Talsky. So where can our listeners hear more of this amazing music?
Oh, please do. You can check out all my socials and links at JordanaTalsky.com. Links to the Spotify, links to the YouTube, the iTunes, all that fun stuff.
You must have YouTubes of you looping.
Yes.
Of course.
I do. Jordana Talsky. You can just punch that into the search term. Perfect.
And we want to hear from you, devoted listeners. So please send your comments, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Song Talk Radio, or send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes now that we're all in these virtual boxes. Subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider. And don't forget to sign up for a free newsletter at songtalk.ca. You can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on Song Talk Radio on our resources page. And wherever you are in the world, please join us online via Zoom at our next monthly Song Talk meetup. It's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Phil
at philemery.ca.
And Lexi, how can our listeners follow Featurette?
Featurette Music. All of the ats are Featurette Music. FEAURETTE. I memorized that just for you.
Awesome. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, browse past shows, and find out how you can be a guest. Stay safe, everyone, and keep on writing.
Good night. So when you're doing these tunes live, are you building them up from basically nothing?
Zero,
for every
from
tune?
nothing.
So
wow.
Awesome.
It's hard.
Yeah, because if you hit like one of the buttons slightly
You're fucked.
off,
you gotta practice a lot.
you vault.
Well, you can do it again. You don't have to lock in that loop, right? I'm assuming.
But I try not to. I mean, yeah, you can start over. But then
not start over, but can't you build the layers, and then if you like fail at one layer, kind of, you can like reattempt that layer at that point and keep going?
Yeah, if you're sly about it, it depends. Yeah. In some cases, depends where it's situated.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And actually, I find the hard.
Yeah.
I always find the places that I screw up are right off the top. Right off the top, when I'm a little, nervous, I haven't gotten into the song of it yet. And so that's always annoying when you have like the initial loop is really shitty.
When you're starting out, like most people, most singer-songwriters, they lean into their guitar, they lean into the piano to find that the fundamental pitch.
Yeah.
Right. To find the first note. I mean, you're starting just with your voice. Do you know what is it always in the same key?
Do you have perfect pitch? Yeah. Do you have perfect
pitch? But I use a but when I learn the song, by now I know how the song feels in my voice started in relative pitch.
That's so nice, because you know what? Some days you feel lower than other days, especially as a woman. Different times of the month equal different pitches of your voice. So you could actually just sing where it's comfortable. That's a brilliant thing.
Yes,
cool. That is a bonus. That's a definite bonus.
Because I can transpose on the fly as an electronic artist, like that's okay, but like it doesn't happen because it can affect the other songs in the lineup, and I like to line things up so that sonically they make sense sitting next to each other. Very music theater, I know. Wow. But like, yeah, you could just sing it wherever the hell you wanted. That's beautiful.
You could be in between C and C sharp as your bass.
Oh, you know what? For the life of me, I sing in quarter tones. Like somehow it always goes towards something that's not on the piano.
that is me.
What's your background?
What's your background? I had that problem for so many years, and I'd be like trying to find the pitch, and I'm going, it's not A, it's not A sharp. What the hell?
What's my background?
Yeah.
I'm Jewish, and I did cut some liturgical stuff, but it's not Indian. I had a mentor. I have a mentor, Suba Shankaran, and she is very heavily. I learned a lot of Indian music.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm Armenian. I feel like that's like there are the quarter tones haunt my people too. So yeah. That's an interesting thing. Yeah, I've never found it that intuitive. The tuning of the instrument. It was a learned thing, not a thing that made sense immediately.
Yeah, that's neat. It's just a wild.
Wait, we're not recording anymore for the purposes of the podcast, are we?
No.
Well, so wait,
the after can sometimes be on the YouTube.
Okay.
That's fair.
If it's really
Are you going to post? I'd like to check out all of your stuff, but when you said it, I didn't have the pen handy. But you'll post it in the link or in the thing on the show.
Yeah.
Featurette.
Oh, whoa, that was both things. That was a website and a handle. Choose your ending and beginning of the thing I just messaged to the group.
That's a good
Sorry.
way of doing
Neil,
it.
I follow Neil. I think I follow you. I follow you.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I found out about your
I don't
thing.
think I follow Phil.
Yeah, because I hit your thing on Facebook, I assume, because that's the only place I really go.
Yeah, my stuff is at philemery.ca.
How do you spell it?
Phil, Phil, EMERY.ca.
Okay, cool. Great.
Here's mine.
I got Neil here. Neat. Neato. That was fun.
It's a brilliant. It is.
It was a little rambly, but
this isn't you, is it? Who is this?
Yeah, that's me.
Is that you?
That's me.
That's not the handle.
I know it doesn't look like me right now.
No, it looks exactly like you, but I'm confused about the handle. Okay, follow me back. Follow me back.
There you go.
Yeah.
Share
I have
the
to go
Instas.
into my thing to do that, to the old Instagram. Oh man, do you just find? I find that I am. Sorry, I am gonna do that. I am very. I can't get rid of my phone. It's worsened. The phone usage has worsened for me as of late. Maybe because I'm also doing promo stuff, but like, it's just terrible. I can't escape it.
Especially lockdown and sitting at home all the time. Like, what else are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Are we still in lockdown?
Well, not lockdown, but
Neil, I have been outside in so long, man. It could be the middle of winter and I would have no idea.
no idea.
I had to make myself go for a walk outside today because I knew that my energy would drop. I stay inside for days at a time. I work from home.
Yeah. Oh,
I started a new position at work and I'm like just on the phone for 10 hours a day. Oh my God. When you guys asked me to be on this, I was like, let me see if I can move some shit around. Like, it's really crazy.
Take a quick
right now.
nap before the show.
Yeah.
Jeez,
It's intense.
I have
I'm like
a meeting in person
recruiting
tomorrow, and I'm a little freaked out because I haven't been on the subway since before the pandemic.
Oh my God, are you gonna shake hands? Are you gonna elbow bump? What are you gonna do?
I don't know.
Stay masked.
I kind of don't want to do it, but you know.
I took the subway one time since the whole thing went down, and it was fine.
No, it was fine. I've taken the subway a few times, not nearly as much, of course, but a couple times. Yeah, it's fine. Just don't touch anything and wash your hands when you get off. Like, done.
And I'll just have to not lick any of the poles. You know?
Yeah, don't lick any of the poles.
So hard.
It's hard. It is.
It's
hard.
I understand.
Try not to breathe.
Yeah.
Don't breathe. You'll be fine.
Masks. I'll have multiple masks. Hopefully, it'll be
all of it.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for being on the show. It has been awesome.
Fun.
And Jordana, just a brilliant friggin' song.
Thank you.
It is just catchy as poop.
I played for my wife earlier. Wife earlier. She was like singing it on the way out the door when she was leaving. She was like, "That is so bloody catchy."
Oh,
and she doesn't like anything.
And she doesn't like anything.
She doesn't.
That's my target demographic. The ones that don't.
The one place we kind of intersect is like jazz pop. So yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
Right down your alley.
Awesome. Thank you. It's always, now I've got lots to think about. Like, I'm gonna think about everything you said after, and I'll replay this many times. So thank you. It's always really a pleasure. And it's nice to meet you, Lexi. And
nice to meet you too. Yeah, I hope we cross paths someday. Yeah, we come from similar worlds of music, and then we made like very different kinds of music. So I think that's really neat when that happens, because it's like, what happened to you why are you so
a choir
broken?
person?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I went full U of T opera degree. Like I did the whole deal. So I went choir and music theater before that and all that good stuff. So
Jordana, you gotta check out Featurette's music videos. They do a music video for everything, and they're like fully produced, like really cool.
By me.
Yeah.
Wow. Is this a band or are you Featurette single?
We're a duo. So it's me and my husband. But he is less enthusiastic than I am, so I do a lot of the things that are the face of the band or whatever.
The PR person.
Yes. I'm young and vibrant still for the next 5 minutes until I wilt. You know. Oh man.
Very cool.
Great. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
All right. Well, take care, everyone.
All right.
Have a great weekend.
See you next time.
Jordana will send you an email when the show is live.
Okay, super.
All right.
Hey, me too. I want to post it.
Yeah, for sure. We'll let you know.
Awesome.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.